Lesson 2-4, our learning targets. I can identify slope-intercept point, slope, and standard forms of a linear function and write equations of each form. I can use the definitions of x-intercept and y-intercept to find the intercepts of a standard form line and graph the line. I can relate the constants a, b, and c to the values of the x-intercept, y-intercept, and slope. I can write equations for lines parallel and perpendicular to a given line, and can graph equations on coordinate axes with appropriate labels and scales. Alright, so we are going to get into our linear equations. We have two forms right off the bat, slope-intercept form and point-slope form. Slope-intercept is your one you've seen a lot, y equals mx plus b, m is your slope, b is your y-intercept. Point-slope, m is still your slope, and x1, y1 is just any point on the line. And again, we have that slope formula, y is on top, x is on bottom. So problem 1 says we have a line passed through our point -1, 3 with a slope of -2/3. What is an equation of the line? Well, as it says, I have a slope and I have a point, so I should probably be using point-slope form. So anything that doesn't have a subscript, subscripts are those little numbers next to our letters, that gets replaced with our point. Anything that doesn't have it stays. So this y stays there, minus y1 is going to be replaced with our 3 from our point, equals our slope, -2/3, and x stays because it doesn't have a subscript, plus 1, plus because we have a minus and -1. So that is our point-slope form. If we want to change that into slope-intercept form, we are going to distribute our -2/3. So I have y minus 3 equals -2/3 x minus 2/3. And then I'm just going to add that 3 over. So y equals -2/3 x plus 2 1/3. Then we have our second problem. It says a line passes through 5, 1 and 7, 9. Those are both points. When you're given 2 points, you need to find the slope. Every equation, you need a slope. And it wants to know what is the equation of the line and point slope form and in slope-intercept form. So the first thing I have to do is find that slope. Use that handy slope equation. Our y is on top. So I have 9 minus 1, x is on bottom, 7 minus 5. That leaves me with 8/2. Always simplify that if you can. So we're going to have 4. So I'm just going to write that here. Our slope is 4. Now, I have a point. I have 2 points, actually. It doesn't matter which one you use. You can use either one, and you'll notice that when we take it into slope-intercept form, you'll get the same answer. So let's start with that first point. We have our y stays. Y minus that first point, my y coordinate is 1, equals slope of 4, we said, and then x minus 5. That is our point-slope form using the first one. And if you want to use the second one, we get y minus 9 equals 4, same slope, x minus 7. Like I said, we'll get the same place. I'm only going to do the top one, but if you want to do the bottom one just to check, go for it. So to change it like we did last time, we're going to distribute that 4. So we get 4x minus 20, add the 1, y equals 4x minus 19. In another form of the line is what we call standard form. Some of the x and y terms are set equal to a constant, so they're all on one side. You can kind of see below next to that red. That is what our standard form looks like. And we always want to put the coefficients. Coefficients are things attached to the x and y. we want to make those integers. Integers are whole numbers. They can be positive, they can be negative, and they can be zero. They are just not fractions or decimals, anything like that. So, problem 3. What is the equation of the line y equals 2/5 x minus 3 in standard form? So, I'm going to add, I want to get my x and y on the same side. So I'm going to move that x over. So if I have 2/5 x, I'm going to subtract 2/5. So minus 2/5 x plus y equals negative 3. And remember I said I didn't want any fractions. So I need to make this negative 2/5 a whole number. Well, easy thing to do. Multiply by a number. That number would be 5. So that becomes negative 2x plus 5y equals negative 15. And that is in our standard form. We have our integer coefficients. We are good to go. Down to problem 4. It says, what is an equation of the line y equals 9.1x minus 3.6 in standard form? Use integer coefficients. So again, we want to get our x and y on the same side, so we're going to subtract that 9.1x to get it on the same side as the y. And again, we do not have an integer, we need an integer. So I need to multiply this by something so that my decimals go away. All I can think of, 10 will do the trick. So I get negative 91x plus 10y equals negative 36. If these numbers, negative 91, 10, and negative 36, have a common divisor, so something that they can all be divided by, you would divide that to get the lowest terms, but these 3 numbers do not have a common divisor, so we're just going to leave it. So writing equations of lines. Our 3 different forms, the ones we have talked about, slope, intercept, point slope, and standard, are all at the top. You can graph an equation in standard form quickly by determining the x and y intercepts and then drawing the line through them. Intercepts are just where it crosses an axis, so the y-intercept would be where it crosses the y-axis, the straight up and down, and the x-intercept would be where it crosses the x-axis. So looking at our problem, we have 3x minus 2/3 y equals negative 12. Our x-intercept means y is 0. So if we cover up this y part and solve that equation, that's where our x-intercept will be. So our x-intercept is where 3x equals negative 12. Divide by 3, and x is negative 4. So our x-intercept, where it crosses the x-axis, is at negative 4. So go ahead and make that dot. Y-intercept, same thing, except for this time we're going to cover up the x. So we have negative 2/3 y equals negative 12. If you divide negative 12 by negative 2/3, you get y equals 9. So you got to go up to 9 on your graph and draw a line. Don't forget your arrows. So we got a word problem, everyone's favorite. Office manager of a small office ordered 140 packs of printer paper. Based on average daily use, she knows that the paper will last about 80 days. What graph represents the situation? So we have our table. If it's been 0 days, the number of packs of printer paper used can be guessed to be 0. It's pretty clear. And then it says that in our sentences, it tells us that the 140 packs last about 80 days. So in our days, we're going to write 80. So all we have to do is graph. First we need to label the graph. On the x-axis, we're going to write days. And on the y-axis, we're going to write paper used. And then plot our point 0, 0, and then 80, 140 about there. And this time only one arrow. There's no negatives values because you can't have negative days and you can't have negative paper used. Then we got parallel and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines mean they have the same slope, and perpendicular lines mean that they are negative reciprocals of each other. What that means is if one slope is, for say example, 1/5, that negative reciprocal would be -5. So change the sign and flip it. It's kind of how I think about it. So if we have 3/4, that would be -4/3. Alright, that's just an example. Problem 3 says, what is the equation of each line in slope-intercept form? So, A says the line parallel, that's a key word, parallel to 4x plus 2y equals 7 and through a point. Parallel means that our slopes, we want them to be the same. So I got to figure out what the slope of this equation, 4x plus 2y equals 7, is first, and then I can put it into my new equation. So to figure that out, we got to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4x over, and then divide by 2 to get y equals -2x plus 7 over 2. All I care about is this slope. So I'm going to make a little note to myself that my slope is -2. So now I have a slope. I have the point that I want it to go through, that 4, -2. So I'm going to put that into my point slope equation. I have y minus -2 equals my slope I want to use, -2 times x minus 4, and then distribute my -2, -2x plus 8, subtract my 2, y equals -2x plus 6 is now in slope-intercept form. Try to do B by yourself, pause the video, and come back and check for your answer. All right, hopefully B went all right. It says line perpendicular to y equals 2/3 x minus 1 and through a point 0, 6. Keyword perpendicular. This time our slopes want to be negative reciprocals. So right now our slope in this equation is 2/3. The negative reciprocal of that, our new slope, is -3/2. And we want to go through a point. What's kind of cool about this point, you'll notice it says 0, 6. That point is our y-intercept. It just so happens to be that. Y-intercept, aka my b. So my b is 6. I got my m, I got my b. I can throw it in to my slope-intercept form. So I get y equals -3/2 x plus 6. And that is all for section 2-4.